6 days. That is all it took for the Middle East to enter a completely different era. Not a skirmish, not a limited strike, a full-scale war. And what most people are missing is that according to the people running it, it has not even started in earnest yet. Something shifted on day 6. It is subtle. You will not see it in the explosion footage or in the casualty numbers. But if you know where to look, it is unmistakable. Iran fired 86% fewer missiles today than it did on day 1. Its drone attacks dropped by 73% compared to the opening hours of this conflict. The top American general, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, walked to the podium at the Pentagon and confirmed both numbers publicly. He said the United States will expand inland, pushing progressively deeper into Iranian territory. He said American strength is growing fiercer, smarter, and utterly dominant. And the reason Iran is firing less is not because it chose to slow down. It is because it is running out. This is the moment in a war when things get truly dangerous, not when one side is powerful, when one side is running out of options. And that is exactly when the United States Senate, by a vote of 47 to 53, rejected the resolution that would have forced the president to stop the war. One more door has closed. Every political mechanism that could have ended this conflict has now been tried and failed. The bombing will continue. The Senate has given this war its seal of approval. Today I am walking you through the 6 most important developments from the last 24 hours. Because something has shifted, and if you are following this war closely, you need to understand exactly what that shift means. Start with the most explosive new development, the one that transforms this from an air campaign into something far larger. CNN confirmed this week that the CIA is actively working to arm Kurdish fighters with the explicit goal of sparking a popular uprising inside Iran. Multiple people familiar with the plan told CNN directly that the Trump administration has been in active discussions with Iranian opposition groups and Kurdish leaders in Iraq about providing them with military support. Thousands of Kurdish fighters from multiple armed factions are operating along the Iraq-Iran border, primarily in Iraq's Kurdistan region. And according to an official from the Coalition of Political Forces of Iranian Kurdistan, speaking to Israeli news channel I-24, the ground offensive has already begun. Kurdish fighters affiliated with the Kurdistan Free Life Party began taking combat positions inside Iranian territory starting from the night of March 2nd. They have already moved into positions around the southern mountains of Marivan in Iran's Kurdistan province. This is a coalition of 5 major Iranian Kurdish political and armed factions that formed a unified alliance just days before the war started, on February 22nd. Together, they have thousands of trained fighters. They have been fighting the Iranian regime for decades, and they have been waiting for exactly this moment. Their families live under the regime they are trying to bring down. What does this mean strategically? It means the United States has decided it does not need American boots on the ground inside Iran. It has proxies, Kurdish fighters who know the terrain, who have deep roots in the local population, and who are motivated by something far more personal than any foreign policy objective. Iran's IRGC responded by striking Kurdish bases in Iraq's Kurdistan region with dozens of drones, trying to destroy these groups before they can fully mobilize. But the CIA is already in motion. The weapons are moving. The fighters are taking positions. The ground war inside Iran has quietly begun, and most of the world has not noticed yet. Now, let us talk about what that 86% drop in missile fire actually means. On the first day of this war, Iran launched a massive barrage, dozens of ballistic missiles, hundreds of drones. They went after Al Udeid base in Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Israel, and Jordan. 6 countries hit simultaneously. It was Iran's full show of force. Everything it had been preparing for years, fired in a single coordinated wave. By day 5, that pace had collapsed to 14% of what it was on day 1. The drone rate dropped to 27%. These are not rounding errors. This is a structural collapse in Iran's ability to sustain offensive operations. 2 things are happening at the same time. First, the US and Israel have been destroying launch sites, missile storage facilities, and drone bases from the very first day. Every strike on a launch position is not just eliminating one missile, it is eliminating the infrastructure needed to fire dozens more. Second, Iran built up its stockpile over years, hiding weapons and dispersing storage across the country. But a stockpile has a finite size. Fire it all in a week, and the stockpile is gone. The defense secretary stood at the Pentagon and said the Iranian Air Force is no more. He said the Iranian Navy rests at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. He said Iran's capabilities are evaporating by the hour. These are press conference claims made by a man defending his own operation. But the 86% drop in missile fire is a concrete number, and it tells a story the press conference cannot. Gulf air defense systems had been absorbing enormous pressure. Analysts warned just days ago that Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar might exhaust their interceptor missiles within 1 to 2 weeks if Iran kept up its initial launch rate. But if that rate has dropped by 86%, the pressure on Gulf air defenses has dropped with it. The Gulf ammunition problem may resolve itself before the interceptors run out. Not because the threat disappeared, because Iran used most of its long-range arsenal in the opening days and cannot sustain that volume anymore. In the Indian Ocean, off the coast of Sri Lanka, something happened that had not occurred since the Second World War. A U.S. Navy submarine used a torpedo to sink an Iranian warship. Sri Lanka's deputy foreign minister confirmed that at least 80 people were killed when the vessel went down. The White House confirmed the strike. Defense Secretary Hegseth described it as the first sinking of an enemy warship by American torpedo since World War II. Think about what that sentence actually means. 80 years of modern warfare, Korea, Vietnam, the Falklands, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria. In all of that, no American submarine ever sank an enemy ship with a torpedo until now. The Iranian warship had traveled to international waters near Sri Lanka, apparently to escape U.S. naval operations in the Persian Gulf. It found no safety there. The submarine followed. The torpedo found it. 80 people went into the Indian Ocean. The White House also confirmed that the U.S. has destroyed more than 20 Iranian ships in total, including Iran's top submarine. Iran's Navy, which just 1 week ago was threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz and firing on commercial vessels, has essentially ceased to exist as a functioning military force. The Senate vote deserves its own attention because of what it reveals about the domestic politics of this war. A group of Democratic senators led by Tim Kaine of Virginia, joined by Republican Rand Paul of Kentucky, forced a vote on a war powers resolution. Under the Constitution, only Congress can formally declare war. The War Powers Resolution passed in 1973 requires the President to notify Congress within 48 hours of deploying forces and limits operations to 60 days without congressional authorization. Democrats argued Trump violated this by launching a massive war against a sovereign nation without any vote in Congress. The resolution failed 47 to 53. Every Republican except Rand Paul voted against it. And Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, broke with his party and voted against it too. The consequences of this vote are significant. The legal challenge to Trump's war authority has been tested and defeated in the Senate. A similar vote is expected in the House on Thursday, and Speaker Mike Johnson says Republicans have the votes to defeat it there as well. After both chambers vote this war down, Trump will have received effective retroactive political endorsement from Congress for an operation he launched entirely on his own authority. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy walked out of a classified briefing and told reporters directly that administration officials said this is an open-ended operation that has not even really started in earnest yet. He said more Americans will be killed. He said ground troops are not off the table. A CBS News poll found that most Americans disapprove of the war and believe the administration has not clearly explained its goals. But disapproval in a poll does not stop a war. A Senate vote could have. The Senate just refused to take it. This war is also hitting global technology infrastructure in ways nobody modeled before the conflict began. Amazon Web Services confirmed that its data center in Bahrain was damaged by a nearby drone strike. 2 additional AWS data centers in the United Arab Emirates were directly struck by Iranian drones. All 3 facilities remain offline. Iran's IRGC stated explicitly that it targeted Amazon facilities because of the company's support for U.S. military and intelligence activities. Iranian drones attacking the cloud infrastructure that runs a significant portion of the global internet is a dimension to this war that no pre-conflict scenario included. Businesses around the world, whose applications run on AWS in the Gulf, found their services going dark because of a drone attack launched from the other side of the region. Qatar arrested 10 suspected IRGC intelligence operatives embedded inside the country, a country that hosts the largest American airbase in the Middle East. How long they had been there and what they had collected about U.S. military operations is something American intelligence is now urgently working to determine. More than 1 million passengers remain stranded as Qatar Airways, Emirates, and Etihad all remain grounded. Dubai and Abu Dhabi airports, which together handle more international air traffic than almost any other hub on Earth, are effectively closed. Now let us talk about the succession question because it has taken a deeply symbolic turn. The state funeral for Khamenei, scheduled to begin Wednesday evening in Tehran, was cancelled. Iranian state media announced the postponement without giving a new date. 3 days of national mourning had been officially declared. Canceling the funeral of the man who ruled Iran for 35 years is not a scheduling problem. It is a signal of how completely the regime's normal functioning has been disrupted. The funeral of Khomeini in 1989 was one of the largest human gatherings in modern history. Millions filled the streets of Tehran. The ceremony was broadcast around the world. It was the moment the Islamic Republic demonstrated its mass legitimacy after the founder's death. A proper funeral for Khamenei would have been that kind of moment. The regime cannot hold it. The bombing will not stop long enough for it to happen. Meanwhile, Khamenei's son, Mojtaba, is now being named by multiple intelligence sources as a frontrunner for supreme leader. He is a mid-level cleric who has never held public office, but he carries his father's name. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz issued a public warning that whoever is appointed as the next supreme leader will be, in his words, an unequivocal target for elimination. Israel is not just bombing Iran's military infrastructure. It is threatening to kill whoever Iran chooses as its next leader before that person can consolidate any authority. This is an attempt to make the position of supreme leader itself untenable. So, where is this war actually going? Iran is running out of long-range missiles. Its navy is at the bottom of the sea. Its air force has been destroyed. Its supreme leader is dead. His funeral has been cancelled. Its succession is unfolding under bombardment. Kurdish fighters are inside its borders. The CIA is arming those fighters. The Senate has cleared the legal path for the bombing to continue. The American general overseeing the operation says they are accelerating, not decelerating. On paper, this looks like an overwhelming military victory for the United States and Israel, but there is a gap between destroying a country and replacing it with something stable. The regime is crumbling under this pressure, but 90 million people still live in Iran. Thousands of IRGC fighters still have their weapons. The ideology that built this regime did not disappear when the bombs fell. Senator Chris Murphy said it plainly. This is an open-ended operation that has not even started in earnest yet. The Trump administration went into this with the goal of regime change. They are achieving it militarily. But regime change is not just the end of a regime. It is also the beginning of whatever comes next. And right now, nobody in Washington or Jerusalem appears to have a clear answer for what that next thing is. The Kurdish fighters moving into western Iran are not a government in waiting. They are armed groups seeking autonomy in a region Iran has never willingly surrendered. If the regime collapses and those groups seize territory, Iran may not become a democracy. It may become a fractured state with multiple armed factions fighting over the ruins. China is watching. Russia is watching. The families of the people killed in Iran are watching. The American soldiers buried this week were watching until they could not anymore. This war is on day 6. The Senate says it can continue for as long as the president wants. The general says it is accelerating. The CIA is arming new fighters. And Iran, which is running out of missiles but not out of will, is still firing. Day 7 starts now.